Please be seated. I wish to introduce to you our homilist this morning, Jack O'Mara. I met Jack and Ann in my office many years ago now. Found out pretty quickly on that we have a connection in Maine, a lot of significant people that he knows, they know, I know. But the first impression for the two of them and from Jack sitting in my office was that their love for one another as they were seeking to be married here at Ascension was just so like, turn it down. I was literally moved to tears. It was like so wonderful. Jack has lived many lives, and you know the expression about 9 lives applies in many ways, and you're going to hear a little of this morning. Jack is a doctorate in education. He's been a principal, a teacher, he's an author, he's an outdoorsman, he's a fisherman, he's a duffer. He's a lot of things. He's a husband, he's a father, he's a cancer survivor, and he's a man of faith and of grace and grit, and most of all, gratitude. And it's my honor and pleasure to invite him up now for our word this morning. Jack.
I kind of picked one heck of a gospel to follow because it's pretty confusing. It was clearly the people who were following Jesus that day were perplexed by what was happening and were very perplexed and challenged by his message, as was I when I read it. And particularly what struck a chord with me was the message. People are knocking on the doors and wanting to get in, and the crowd says to Jesus, "Your mother and your brothers and your sisters are banging on the door and they want to come in." And Jesus responded, "You are my brothers and my sisters, my mother. And I say to you this morning, you are my brothers and my sister and my mother." And that was a challenge for them, as this is a challenge for me. And I think of challenges, when I think of challenges, I think of the story of a young man like I was many years ago who loved to walk the coast of Maine. And on this particular day, this young man is walking and he sees this lobsterman in the fog hauling his traps. And he's just captivated by what's happening. And he's so captivated, he doesn't notice that the grass is wet. And he slips on the grass and he slides right down off the edge of the cliff. And as he's falling, he reaches out and he grabs a root. And he's hanging on to that root for dear life. And he looks down and he sees the rocks crashing on the surf below. And he knows he's got just 1 second before he dies. So he shouts out, "Lord, help me, help me." Silence. So he tries again, "Lord, help me." And all of a sudden, a light shines on his face and the fog parts. And this deep voice says, "My son, you are in my hands. Let go of the roots and I will capture you and all will be fine." He looks down at the crashing surf, looks up at the light, and he goes, "Is there anybody else up there?" So, clearly, as I'll be sharing with you later, I have plenty of challenges in my life, but I can remember my very first challenge was as a young man, a little 7-year-old boy, and I was a newly anointed altar boy at St. George's Church in Saxonville, Mass. And I've got my cassock and surplice on my shoulder, and I'm walking down the sidewalk. And then all of a sudden I look, and from down in the sidewalk come these thugs. It would be the best way to describe them. And I'm a pretty sweet, innocent little kid, and these guys scared me to death. So I step off to the side, and they step off to the side, and I know I'm in big trouble. And this one kid, the biggest of all of them, the meanest looking of all of them, gets right in my face with his finger. And he said something absolutely filthy. Well, I was in second grade, so I didn't know what that meant. But I knew it was wrong, and I knew it was evil, and it terrified me. And they left, and I'm just kind of shaking. And I remembered a prayer that I was taught in Sunday school. Angel of God, my guardian dear, to whom God's love and trust be here. Ever this day be at my side, to light, to guard, to rule, and guide. Amen. And I said it again, and I felt so good and happy and comforted knowing that I had a guardian angel with me that day, that I was just about skipping the rest of the way down to church. And I never forgot that moment. But I think of someone who needed a guardian angel but didn't get it. And I think being an English major, I got to pull from that hat as well. My favorite poet, W.H. Auden, had a poem called Musée des Beaux-Arts. And it's a story of a painting by Peter Bruegel of Icarus. And Icarus and his father Daedalus wanted to fly, so they fashioned wings out of feathers. But Daedalus warned Icarus, don't go too close to the sun because it will melt the wax and you'll be in trouble. Well, like most sons, he didn't listen to his father, and he did go too close to the sun. So the painting depicts part of that. And it's an expensive, delicate ship. Must have seen something amazing, a boy falling out of the sky. But it had somewhere to go and sailed calmly by. And I can remember my first, what I would call my first guardian angel, Icarus moment. I was fishing on the Rapid River, as Michael Brucato knows, and I'm a fishing fanatic, and I'm in heaven, really, as close to heaven as I can get without being there. And I'm watching this big trout sipping mayflies, and I've got a mayfly just drifting right down, and I'm just getting ready to set the hook. And to this day, I can't explain what happened next, but I had this incredibly powerful message in my head. Look upstream, Jack, look upstream. So I did, even though I wanted to see what was going to happen. I wanted to catch that fish, but I looked upstream, and there were these 3 young teenage girls, and they were all novice kayakers. I could tell by what they were doing in the kayak. They'd just come out of some really rough white water, and they pulled off into an area on the side that they thought was safe, but it wasn't safe. There was some heavy-duty hydrodynamics there, and as soon as they pulled in, the girl in the middle kayak flipped over, and the other 2 kayaks slid in right next to her. And she was trapped underwater, and I could see it immediately. And I was further than from here to the back of the church, and I hopped out of the river, and I'm running up the bank as fast as I can in my waders, but I know it's not going to be fast enough. And I get there, and she's been underwater a long time, and all I can see is the line on her bow handle. So I reach down, and I yank it up, and the kayak flips over. And the girl literally is spitting water. She had maybe another couple of seconds before she drowned. And I got them all settled and had their leader come over and take care of her. And I went back down to where my fishing rod was. I just couldn't fish. I mean, I was so overcome with that guardian angel moment, so overcome with what happened, that I just couldn't do anything but thank God for giving me the insight to do that. It was just one of the most amazing moments in my life. But I think of my own challenges that I have faced recently. As Father Brad mentioned, I'm a cancer survivor, so far anyways. And I had lymphoma for 3 years, and for 3 years nonstop, I had chemotherapy. Every single month I had a 5 to a 10-hour treatment for 3 straight years. And then we thought that my health crisis was over, so we went on a trip to celebrate. And my immune system had been so decimated, I got COVID. And it was so bad, I had COVID pneumonia for 5 straight months, including 3 trips to the hospital. I was on oxygen for 5 months. I didn't think I was going to survive that, but I did. But what happened in the process, and the reason why I am here, my brothers and sisters, is to let you know, I've got a varsity letter in Guardian Angels, and there were so many people who took care of me emotionally, spiritually, and physically. Father Brad was just outstanding. He was there from day one with prayer and support and love and kindness, as he does so incredibly well. And some of the parishioners here, and you know who you are. You helped to take care of me as well. I am blessed. I have the world's only live-in guardian angel. My wife, Ann, was just sensational. I was on 20 different medicines, and she made sure, and she really made sure, you're gonna take this, whether you like it or not. Open up, boom. And she saved my life more times than I can count. There were times where I'd spike a temperature of 104.5. Have you ever driven Route 1 at 85 miles an hour? Get out of her way. But she did, and she saved my life. And that was just so wonderful. But other guardian angels were there for me. In my family, my daughter, Maggie, who's a nurse practitioner and also a cancer survivor, lives in England, but I could call her anytime I needed her for medical advice. Honey, this is happening to me. Something seems wrong. Dad, it's okay. That's a side effect of the drug that you're on right now. And I was also blessed. My son, Ryan, and my daughters, Jess and Sarah, were always there with texts and phone calls. Dad, you can do it. You can do it. And there was another time, even before the cancer, when I was that guy hanging by a root. And someone noticed and saved my life. My fishing buddies, oddly enough, were there as well. That may sound strange to have fishing buddies be a part of your healing, but I had a particular type of chemotherapy that was exceptionally painful. It just burned my arm to pieces. And when they knew I was having chemo, they would send me photos, kind of like, but that was great. And they would sometimes do that. Look what you're missing. You better get well. We want you back here next season. But that got me through those treatments. I would look at those pictures and I would look at the texts, and that made a difference. I can't describe how helpful that was. But my favorite moment by far and away, was it was almost Christmas Eve. It was the Friday before Christmas. And chemotherapy does a number on your body. I lost my hair. I lost my strength. I lost my vitality. And one of the things that for me was always so important was to decorate our house. Loved decorating the house. And as we're driving home, all I could think about was it was raining and sleeting and just a terrible, atypical New England Christmas Eve time. And I'm thinking of seeing that cold, bleak house, and that's how I felt, cold and bleak. And I round the corner at Chattanooga, and the house is just all lit up better than I could ever have done it. What I didn't realize is that Ann had conspired with some neighborhood boys to decorate the house in a way that was just so beautiful. And I get out of the car, and the tears are running down my cheeks. And when I think it can't get any better, all of a sudden, I hear, "Silent night, holy night, all is calm, all is bright." And it was bright. The house was perfect. But even more perfect was the brightness in my heart that my guardian angels were there for me. My dad taught me never, ever to underestimate the value of a single act of kindness. And you never know who the person is hanging on to that root. You never know who that little boy is metaphorically falling from the sky. And I say to you, my brothers and sisters, it's important, take the time to look around, to see and to hear and to notice someone who just might be in pain. Because you have two choices really in life. You can be that expensive, delicate ship that has somewhere to go and sail calmly on. Or you can be the Good Samaritan who noticed the man stripped naked, beaten and bloody and dirty on the side of the road and reach a hand down and share Christ's love.